what methodology did you use to link the Rebbe's sermons to the events that were taking place in the ghetto?
That's an excellent question, and I think it's something that I'm very proud of. I think that it required certainly not only a level of scholarly and intellectual effort, but it also required me to really exert myself on a spiritual level as well, because the Rebbe's writings, when they were discovered in 1950, they were later published in 1960, and we've had them for quite some time. And initially, scholars were thrilled. Oh my gosh, this is something which is sui generis. It's one of a kind. We have nothing at all like this from anywhere in the entire period of the Holocaust. And we can press a little further on that point later if you like, but basically this is the only book of its nature that we have from the Holocaust. But when scholars dove in to say, okay, what does it say to us about the Holocaust, about the history of the Holocaust? What does it say to us about God? What does it say to us about Chassidut? What can we learn from it? It was very, very difficult, because the Rebbe completely avoided, with one minor exception, completely avoided locating any of his drashot in time or space. I mean, if you didn't know what you were reading, if you picked up a copy of Aish Kodesh and started reading a few pieces here and there, you would say, this is like a really depressing book of 19th century Hasidic thought. I mean, they're constantly going back to the problem of evil, trying to understand why God allows these things to happen and so on, over and over and over again. But you wouldn't get, there's no markers that specifically say when and where it was written. He never uses the word Nazi or German. He hardly uses the word war, and usually it's in the context of like the War of the Maccabees, for example. There's no, so like, it's so kind of like floating out in space and not physically connected to the mundane quotidian world in which these events were actually unfolding. So historians have traditionally avoided this book because, first of all, you have to get a handle on the rabbinic background, on the Kabbalistic background, on the Hasidic background of what the text actually says. And then even if you decipher it, you still don't know what he's talking about with regards to Holocaust. So the minor contribution that I made is I went back and I read as much as I could from the voluminous descriptions we have of daily life in the ghetto. We have journals, we have diaries, we have newspaper accounts from multiple sources. And I tried to read everything I could about a street by street description of what happened in the ghetto in a particular week. And then with that in my mind, I read the Rebbe's drasha for that Shabbos. And all of a sudden, it fell so amazingly into place that Adarabba, the opposite of what everyone was thinking, he was specifically addressing issues that were happening to the Jews in this particular week. He was specifically addressing their concerns by attaching what they were feeling to the Parsha that week in an amazing way that must have electrified his audience. I would invest myself in this project by imagining myself sitting in the Rebbe's shul as the Rebbe got up to deliver this drasha and thinking about what happened during the week. And then I realized, oh my gosh, he's totally addressing the concerns that I have. And this just, opened up the world for me. You said some very nice things about me in the introduction. I wanted to share with you one thing that I heard recently that I cannot confirm, but if it's true, it makes me feel incredibly good. Because the Rabbi Moshe Weinberger, who is one of the world's experts on Piaseczna Hasidus, he lives not too far here in Woodmere, New York, and he wrote one of the Haskamos for the book, which I'm very grateful for. But apparently one of his Talmidim said to me, that he heard the Rebbe say, that Rabbi Weinberger say, that it is asur to study the Aish Kodesh without Abramson's book by your side. I thought, oh, wow, that's great. But I believe, I don't think, asur, forbidden, is not a word I would use, but I definitely think that you can't really grasp what the Rebbe is talking about unless you have a sense of what happened that week. You might wonder, why is he going off on that direction over there? I mean, it makes sure, it makes sense, but it's not like gripping. But once you realize that the Rebbe is specifically connecting the trauma that the Jews experienced that week with the Parsha, it's mind-blowing.